Welcome in, welcome in. It is Tuesday morning, August 2nd, 7:34 a.m. Mountain Time. Means it's time for another episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am Nick Kendell and joined by, as always, for these morning Broncos shows from the other end of the country, Scott Kennedy. Scott, good later morning to you.
Still morning, 9:30,
Right.
9:30 out in Atlanta. But it's good. We got coast to coast Broncos coverage, in
Yes,
the
sir.
morning. You're not going to miss with the night owls like Zach and Chad and West Coast and then East Coast. We're pretty much got you covered. And then we're across the pond too with Keith. So 24 hours Broncos coverage. And we're going to have breakfast this morning.
Had breakfast. No, I have not had breakfast yet. This is my Broncos for breakfast, but coffee in hand. So hopefully I'm feeling pretty good. I just got done with a 18, 20-ish mile backpacking trip this weekend. It was pretty fun, but it was hot and buggy. But I survived, so can't complain there. Did I forget to click those in, Scott? Oh my goodness.
You did, but that's why I'm here.
Good. Yeah.
So
I'm still,
welcome into our Facebook group. Sorry we brought you in just a shade late.
Yeah, about 60 seconds late, but good to see everyone in here. And starting us off, man, great. EJ coming in with the $4.99 super over on YouTube with the background picture of Colorado with the mountains off in the distance, saying, "Good morning, Nick and Scott. Thank you for all you do for Broncos country." Thank you, EJ. He says, "Wanted to show you my appreciation on my birthday. Love you all. Happy birthday, EJ. We appreciate you. Let us know what your plans are. What's going on? Hopefully you get some good Broncos gear for your birthday. I know that there are a few things obviously behind me. I could use a few Broncos paraphernalia, such a thing. I got all my baseball hat collection, but not really a lot of good Broncos gear. And speaking about that, how about this for a giveaway? A signed Javonte Williams helmet. We welcome Pristine Auction as a sponsor to our podcast. PristineAuction.com is the most trusted sports memorabilia auction site. I better check it out with an A+ BBB rating. Auctions on PristineAuction.com start at just $1, and each day there are over 1,000 autographed items available, so you win signed authentic signatures at affordable prices. Just last week, an autographed Justin Herbert jersey sold for just $110, man. I might have gotten in on that. Deals like this are happening all the time on PristineAuction.com, and they have just about every player you want, including Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, and some of your favorite Broncos. Every item on PristineAuction.com comes with a certificate of authenticity from the industry's most reputable authenticators. Upgrade your collection of signed memorabilia today and get $10 off your first item when you use code HUDDLE when you sign up. Again, PristineAuction.com by using the code HUDDLE and get $10 off your first item one. And that's not all. In addition to the $10 off your first item, we are giving away a signed Javonte Williams helmet to one lucky listener. Could be you, EJ. Happy birthday. Good vibes there. Who signs up using the code HUDDLE. Here's a chance to win. All you need to do is sign up on the website using our registration code HUDDLE to be entered. Links are in the description.
Yep. Yesterday, everybody started kind of flocking to that and getting registered. And as you choose the pull down menu, it says, "How did you hear about us?" Make sure you choose, Huddle, Mile Huddle. I think it is. I haven't registered yet. Shame on me. I'll get to that too. I dropped the link in the description. It is very good. A very nice product here that we support and help support the folks that help support our show. We love you for it, Broncos country.
That is a really good looking helmet. I would like the Broncos to go back to that helmet full time. I like that little lighter blue. The logo is better. I'm sorry, guys. The current uniform, at least they went to orange, but not doing it for me. But man, that is a good looking helmet. And man, Javonte Williams is one that you probably want to get.
You don't have kids, so you might not get the reference. But the Croods movie, their mantra was anything new is bad. I'm not quite there, but I don't feel like the designs have gotten better through the years for the most part. Every once in a while you'll see like, oh, that's a pretty cool. I can't pull off the word dope like Chad can, so I'm gonna have to stay with cool. That's a pretty cool.
It sounds like you're talking about.
But the older ones, there were just more, not authentic, but they were more differentiation between between them. It's like now you turn on, it's like, wait a minute, is that 49ers or the Buccaneers, or is that the Chiefs or the Cardinals? I can't. There's just not a lot you can tell between them these days, and there's no mistake in that Denver Broncos helmet right there. That's for sure.
Yeah, some people when they have some of the looks are the updated looks people put out there. Like, oh, they just look like the Gators. Yeah, you want to go with that little lighter blue, distinguished from the Gators there. Dale Fleming, good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. I am very glad to be back. Sorry I was having a tough time, but I'm doing better now. So I am back. And we're going to talk actually a little bit of mental health today clip. So we'll get into that. But Dale, glad to hear you're doing better. Like I've always said on here, man, I guess I'm not able to reach back out to you when I'm in the back country, without service with just my little satellite communicator. But hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, or whatever. You just need somebody to talk to. Bend an ear. We're here. I mean, we really are. Scott's probably a little less available than I am with a family, but again, seriously, reach out if you're doing better. Or if
I'm
you're
not hard to find if you need me, though.
Yeah.
You see how quickly I respond to things.
That's true. Yep, that's true. So seriously, Dale Fleming also saying, by the way, click the like button. I did. We got William Hansen, go Broncos, you better believe it, saying, good evening, Nick and Scott. I don't recognize that name, but I love it. Good to see you. Dave Glassman coming in with the hearts. We appreciate you, Dave. Hope you're doing well. Happy birthday to EJ again. See you coming in here. And Jeremy coming in saying, good morning, boys. Let's pray for no injuries with full pads today. Knock on wood, whatever football gods or whatever juju that you have out there, we're about it. Quan Williams had a scare on his knee last week. And I'm just still catching up, guys. I was gone for 2.5 days. But Quan Williams had a scare on his knee, had the MRI on it, did not show any significant damage. So that's good news. I guess luckily for the Broncos, it does seem like Michael Ojemudia and Damari Mathis have been okay showing up there. So the Broncos do have some young depth that we might see get tested at some point. But Quan Williams should be okay. But you're right. First padded practice, exciting, but also terrifying for sure. We also have Mike Gibbons in the house. Good morning, Nick and Scott. Go Broncos. Good to see you. Another name I don't recognize, saying Dallas Kelly. Welcome in, Dallas. Love all these new first-time listeners coming in. And if you guys haven't done so yet, make sure you click the thumbs up and like the show on the way in. We would really appreciate it. Says, can't wait for the first game of the season. I'll be there with my Jerry Jeudy collected 12th man tiers. Jerry Jeudy jersey collecting 12th man tiers. That's maybe you can win one on pristineauction.com. A different one, but absolutely. So, Scott, how are you feeling about that week 1 matchup? We're still a ways out. Obviously, it's a little over a month and 10 days. But where are we at right now? I mean, I got to say, by the day, based on what I'm hearing out of Seattle, feeling pretty good because the Seattle Seahawks quarterback competition is not going great.
I'm gonna tie this into Miguel's comment here, where he says, "Good morning, fellas. Are the full pads going to tell us how far the Broncos offense really is? So how far along, how good they are?" And I'm going to say no, it won't. You won't know how far along the Broncos offense is until week 3 or 4 of the season, maybe even a little farther. We talk about it all the time, but when you're going against your own, okay, is Bradley Chubb awesome because who he's blocking is bad, or is Bradley Chubb awesome because Bradley Chubb's awesome? Now you got a pretty good idea that the Denver Broncos defense, especially their defensive secondary, is really good, but what are they allowed to do? They may be being pulled back. They may be being held back because the offense needs to get some continuity. So you can't really tell what you've got until you line up against other teams and turn it loose. And that doesn't even count in preseason. Now, if guys are missing wide open passes and, dropping balls and, they just look bad, you can tell that. But you don't want to take too much away from how good someone might look during training camp. Spring sensations, king of spring. Those are the things that get thrown around, talking about who looks good until the pads come on against an opponent. You get a better idea when the other team comes in and you have some mixed practices. Those get pretty feisty because guys are fighting for jobs. But again, it's still a lot of install, a lot of let's not get people hurt. Let's see if we can. Glorified walkthroughs isn't, that's oversimplifying it, but no. You won't know what you've got until quarter, third, midway through the season, and then you should have a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I'll push back slightly, but it's just to add nuance. Everything is ramping up in training camp, but also the quality of the information that we're gathering here. So going from no pads training camp to pads training camp, more like the actual game. We'll get a
Mhm.
better idea of what's going on. I always say it's a zero-sum thing right now, because if you, like you mentioned, if your guys are doing good, it means also your guys are doing bad because you're going up
Mhm.
against your own teammates. But going from no pads to pads, we'll get a little bit more information. And then
Mhm.
going from the Broncos going against each other in pads to the combined practice against the Cowboys, we'll get even more information on
Mhm.
that one. And then we'll have preseason games. That's better quality information. And finally, you're stacking games, real life
Right.
games. And we'll really get an idea. So I agree with you, but just it's so far we're still like, freaking out about everything we have right now because it's the news cycle, but it's going to be better information the more we go. And I think I'm really excited to see defensive line and run game. Those are things that we're not really getting information on so far. More important, everybody stays healthy. But even with the install, if there's like, let's say Javonte Williams is not getting past the line of scrimmage at all because the offensive line is not getting any lateral movement and then horizontal movement, and then Williams is struggling finding the hole. Even if that's early, red flags, big red flags for the install. So things to check out here. Gary Leeds Palmer coming in. Thank you so much, Gary, for the support and the stars. Happy Tuesday to you. Saying, good morning, Nick and Scott. It feels like I haven't seen Broncos for breakfast in ages. Well, we're just here Thursday. Haven't been away. Maybe you've been gone. What's going on, Gary? Hope you're okay. Missed you guys. Go Broncos. Let's ride.
And thank you, Gary. Thank you for the stars and always the support. And you know what? It feels a little bit like that too for me because we do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm behind the scenes, but it's like that's 4 days off and 3 days on.
Mm-hmm.
But next Monday is the final Monday we won't be live. So it was yesterday, only one more Monday without Broncos for breakfast, and then we'll go back to Monday, Tuesday, Thursday because we've got games
Yes,
to
sir.
break down after just one more Monday off. So very excited. And no, you're right. I was on the last question was answering the final one. Will we know? No, we won't. We won't know. Will we have a better idea? Yeah, we'll get a better idea as we go along. Every step of the way is another evaluation process. And Nick, I think you can get a better idea about the individual in these settings than as far as the team. I can isolate guys and I can see things like, okay, how is this offensive lineman doing? But you don't really know how the team, especially offense, is going to come together until you're going against somebody that is doing their damnedest full speed with their record on the line to stop you, and you don't know for sure what you've got on offense until that happens, and that won't happen until the regular season.
Yeah. Yeah, and also in training camp, when you start to know your other guys' tendencies, so you can pick on them a little bit, and how you are winning sometimes, or out there practicing. And in theory, you should be working on your own technique versus trying to take advantage of lapses in the other guy's technique. So you might be working on something weak. It's not always a 1-for-1 for how the season's going to play out, but the quality of information keeps ramping up the closer we get to the season. So excited for that, as long as everyone can stay healthy. US Dave in the house saying, made it. Morning, Broncos Maniacs. Good to see you. Mandango Dan also saying, you're up. Yes, we are up. Good morning, gents. Good to see you. Stephen Bumgartner, good morning, Broncos country. Let's ride. Steven, I want to hear what your thoughts are on the Seattle quarterback training camp battle over there. Is it another
you asked me that, and I kind of blew it off. We got into, what do you know? What I know, and I mentioned, it's easier to tell if someone is struggling. You can learn more about the individuals and then try and come up with the sum of the parts. And right now, I think the individuals on Seattle aren't as good as the individuals at Denver.
Yeah.
They're in a similar situation with a new quarterback, so it's not like they've got the continuity there. Geno Smith has played some, but it's not Russell Wilson. So you've got a downgrade there, and they're in a rebuild. They're not on a full-on rebuild yet, but they're in a rebuild. So I feel pretty good about the Broncos going in and beating Seattle. That one should be 4.5 to 5.5 easy on the and Nick's going to look it up real quick, but I would think, Broncos by 7 would be pretty safe. Good morning, Steven. And else we say good morning to? Good morning, Tabitha. Thank you so much for the stars. Appreciate you coming in and supporting the show. Big stars too. So 1,000 stars coming in. Can't say thank you enough. We wouldn't be here without you. So appreciate it. And if you have any questions or anything, throw them in there. We've got enough. We not that we don't mind the silent, but I feel a little guilty sometimes when you're not asking any questions. It's just thanks.
Yeah, we appreciate you. So the odds are a little bit different across the board. The lowest odds I'm seeing for that Broncos Week 1 game are from open. I don't know what that odds agency is, but they're Broncos -4. And the highest is the Broncos at negative, favored by 5.5
Yeah,
from
that's why I said
FanDuel.
4.5 to 5.5 sounds about right to me.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I don't like betting on teams that I have an emotional interest in. In this case, my emotional connection is with you, Broncos country, because it skews your robotic logical ability that I have with most other teams. But this feels like a team that should win by 7. It does.
Yeah. Yep, 100%. More people coming in. Mark, my guy Mark coming in. Mark, I love Mark's Facebook. He's always posting some awesome pictures of landscapes and whatnot. You know, that gets me. So appreciate you, Mark, coming in. He also said, good morning, Nick and Scott up ahead. So thank you so much for the support, Mark. We appreciate you. Hope you have had a good weekend and getting excited for Broncos football. Also, hopefully it's cooling off down there in Texas. It's a nice and toasty upper 50s this morning in Seattle. We made it through the heat wave. Thank God. My dog is really happy about that. And Lauren's talking about autographs, saying, can we talk about adults pushing over children for autographs? Yeah, I mean, just not some great situational awareness. You know, that's I would not be about that. But also, I don't know what that adult's been through. Maybe they were deprived as a child and, you know, not taken to camp or whatever. And this autograph is going to make or break their, you know,
unfortunately, most of those folks are
but
using it as a method of income and are turning around and selling it. You know, the ones that are there for them usually have their kids out in front of them.
Yep.
It's not always like that, but a lot of times if you see somebody that's that desperate, it's a job.
Yep.
It is a job to them.
Bummer, but Scott with the realism here. So maybe crashing me down. Maybe we need that. Maybe I'm having too much Broncos Kool-Aid this year. Brad D saying, good morning from Broncos country from Montana. Good to see you. Jay Roper. Always good to see Jay. Good morning to you. He's saying, I'm back to watching the live shows rather than watching after the fact. It's always good to have you in the comment section, Jay. We appreciate you. Scott was pulling one up there.
Yeah, Lawrence comes in. He says, "Will they be using the pads on the helmets? The guardian helmets, I think they're called. I think that's mandatory for everybody right now.
It's an NFL thing.
I'm not sure when they're allowed to take them off, but those are mandated by the NFL. So everybody's using them. I don't know for how long. It makes sense. You know, most of the hitting you're going to do is going to be, you know. And I saw the question. It's like, well, if they use them in practice, why not use them in games? I'm like, you kind of got a point there.
Yeah.
But again, if you're limiting the blows to the head by 75% because you're not using them in practice, when, you know, I know some of the biggest hits I ever saw were in practice, you know, teammate on teammate. And, you know, if you're limiting that, then you're taking a lot of the risk out of a lot of it. You can't mitigate the risk completely. Obviously, this is still tackle football for now.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much, Lawrence. We appreciate you. A few more guys want to say hello to CJ Morris. Hello from Broncos training camp. Well, if you're there, give us the status report. No, we'll have Luke on tonight with Carl and I to talk about first padded practice. So that'll be great to see. Chase was saying today's the day we truly see how the trenches are. Just hoping for no injuries, honestly. I'm expecting the defensive line, the edges. I don't know, honestly. Actually, I don't know what to expect. So the trenches on both sides of the ball, outside of just how good Russell Wilson's going to be this year, and the coaching staff, is the biggest question on this Broncos team. I would say the offensive and the defensive lines, not a shocker here, but the weakest part of this roster right now.
And those are big questions. If you get no's on those, your season can go up in smoke in a hurry.
Yep.
You know, you're hoping to at least get maybes. You've had some trouble at right tackle, and it hasn't gotten better. That's the thing about it. So we'll see how it goes. You know, Jeremy came in a few minutes ago. He says, in part 2 on this is Baron Browning got 2 sacks yesterday, so that is something to watch. That's either really good or really bad or somewhere in between. You're just not sure yet. Again, him at edge makes a lot of sense, especially in a, you know, there's a lot of gnashing of the teeth of, you know, why would you move him away from linebacker? Because the linebacker position just is not a focus of this defense. You might be able to make more of an impact getting a third of the snaps at edge than half the snaps at linebacker.
Yep. Edge is just more valuable. It just is. If you can get a sack or pressure, that's way more important than dropping into a hook button zone, you know, kind of thing. So Tabitha coming in here with over on Facebook. Always like to say hello to our Broncos country ladies. Good to see you. EJ also for his birthday celebrated my birthday with my wife. It had early breakfast, eggs Benedict, chocolate chip pancakes with butter and whipped cream. So the food baby is happy. God bless you, EJ. That sounds great. When is my birthday? I'm hungry now. Michael coming in. Good morning, Nick and Scott on Broncos country. Let's ride. Dom also in the house. Good morning, Nick and Scott on Broncos country. Full pads today. That's awesome. Jake Gerard coming in. Morning, guys. I hear we are running some 2 running back plays at practice. Yeah, so I think they're trying to figure out the H-back usage, which has been a tight end. But with Andrew Beck being, I'll just say it, such a marginal player, maybe you get more value using a running back there than Beck. But we'll definitely see. And Shane Daniels with the $5 over on YouTube. Thank you so much, Shane. Everything counts, and those $5 supers are a big support. And obviously, if you guys get those in, yeah, it's showing us. You say this is green. I'd maybe a little bit of a sea foam, but coming in in a new house, I'm learning about colors here. But coming in, Shane Daniels says, morning. Seems like Patrick Surtain II is the new Von Miller. Just a one-man wrecking crew in practice and camp. And definitely seems that way. But I am old enough to be remembering, very early internet days, searching Denver Post and reading about Broncos are having trouble running their offense because Champ Bailey's on one side of the field. And that's what it reminds me of here. Obviously, Von Miller, the one-man wrecking crew, you have to change things here. A little bit different because a cornerback doing everything perfectly and winning doesn't destroy the whole play like an edge rusher doing that, because if the edge rusher gets home, everything's over. If the cornerback covers one guy for a play, you have 3 other options to go to. But still, it does seem like Patrick Surtain is emerging as not only a great player, not only like an all-pro player, but the hype right now, I want to see if it's real when we get more data. Mm-hmm. But the hype right now is unbelievable, to the point where it's like Patrick Surtain emerging as an arguably the best cornerback in football over the next couple seasons. I mean, it really is crazy hype, and it's coming from inside the building too.
Well, and it's nice to have that. Again, let's see how it goes. Let's let him progress. I don't want the weight of the expectations. But what I like about players like that who are really good, he's been around it his whole life. There's no moment that's too big for a kid that grew up in the game like he did. So, he's used to it. It's expected, which is interesting. Speaking of expected, and thanks again, Shane. Dom comes in and he says, our 5 up front is killing us in offense. I want to kind of get back to how we were talking about Hazaki. You don't really know. And until the pads come on, the offensive linemen are at a huge disadvantage. The defensive players are better athletes, flat out. The guys on the defensive line are better athletes than the offensive line. I've told this kind of joke before when I used to go to high school camps and they'd break off guys. It's like, I swear they do offensive and defensive line like this. Big guys over here, big fat guys over here. You put your better athletes on defense, and when there's no way to, it's always going to be 3rd and long. You're always rushing the passer. There's no, I'm going to come out and I'm going to get the first step. I know the snap count. I get the advantage. I get to go and I get to bury you in the run game. There's no threat of that right now. Once that comes, it evens out a little bit. So once the threat of the run game comes along and I'm allowed to use my 330 pounds of mass against you, and if I get my hands on you, I can now drive you into the ground and drive you 10 yards backwards. That starts to even out a little bit. So don't be surprised when the defense is whipping the offense with no pads and the receivers are killing the defensive backs, because again, it's just how it works. That's what makes a guy like Surtain so special. If you can get somebody that can cover in a no pass rush, no contact situation, usually it's one-on-ones with the field wide open, you got something special on your hands.
Yeah, 100%. We'll see. I know that there's been a lot of Deshaun Williams talk here recently. I know that you're a big Deshaun Williams guy. To me, he seems like a really good depth player. Like, you'd love him coming off the bench in like sub packages. And I'm not saying that you think he should be a starter. I'm not putting words in your mouth.
He's an underdog. I love the underdog. He's undersized, scrappy, and plays hard. I root for those guys. He's productive. I'm not saying, hey, you should be in there an automatic starter. I like his motor. I like that he's a little bit undersized and plays with a chip on his shoulder and is productive when he's out there. I root hard for those type of players.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. That's my thought as well. We'll see, though. I'm always a skeptic. And maybe I put a little bit too much hype on the draft pedigree. But there's some science to that. It's not exact, but there is some science to that. Gary, I'll send to pat it up.
There's a lot of, science to it. It's probability, but short guys are discriminated against, flat out. The 6 foot defensive lineman, the NFL is chock full of them, just not in the first 2 or 3 rounds usually. Yep. They've got to do it. And frankly, that helps them a little bit. they have to work harder. They've been discriminated against their entire lives. So I don't want a lineman under 6, defensive line under 6'2". You know what happened to low man wins? You know, that's always a mantra you hear, but the coaches say that, but they don't actually believe it because they're all looking for 6'3" plus defensive linemen
with the
on
vines.
the interior.
Yep.
So Gary coming in, doing a little research for us, says the padded helmets are for the linemen only. I don't know if they'll be used in regular games. No, those won't be on regular games. They're too aesthetically unpleasing to be used in regular games. People are like, those look terrible, you know. So those won't be used in regular games. And someone said
absolutely.
2 weeks only, the first 2 weeks of camp only, which again, that takes us to preseason games, and it's a 3-week preseason instead of 4 now. So we're that much closer. It's almost football time, Nick.
It really is. I mean, it's been football time, but real football. We're getting like all caps here pretty soon. Bama X coming in. Good morning, Broncos country. Good to see you, Bama X. Appreciate you. Brad D also. I want to say hi to all our people. You know, Morning Dale. Good to see you. Colin Wood. Maybe Surtain should be held out of practice so some receivers can catch some balls. There are other receivers that they can get the ball to, and it's definitely a disadvantage if one of your reads is not there every time. But you know, you hope iron sharpens iron, and you want Sutton, you want Jeudy, you want Patrick, you want Hamler to be able to separate against anybody. Well, if they can't separate against Surtain, and he's not yet, you know, the crown of the best cornerback in football, maybe he'll get there, but I don't think you can't give it to him yet. Obviously, you know, that's maybe we were overrating the Broncos receivers the whole time. And Patrick Surtain can be great, but maybe, you know, these Broncos receivers, they just need a quarterback. They're good, but maybe there's nobody that is truly, you know, top 10, top 5 great.
So let's use that, Nick, to get into at 26 minutes. The title of the show, you wanted to talk a little bit about Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
And I'll grab this spam bot coming in here.
Oh.
Okay. Knocked out. Welcome in. Go away.
Yeah, we want to talk Jerry Jeudy today, and the Broncos receivers in general. But yes, so it sounds like early on in camp, it has not been Courtland Sutton or Tim Patrick, who a lot of people were predicting to show out as potentially Russell Wilson's favorite target and the bona fide number 1 receiver, given historically how Russell Wilson has utilized the field, but rather Jerry Jeudy. Now, Jerry Jeudy, obviously 15th overall pick, entering year 3. Year 1 dealt with quarterback issues and just being a rookie, the drops and everything like that. Year 2, the high ankle sprain week 1. I mean, after that, with the style of play that Jerry Jeudy has, you know, he's playing at 80% after that for the rest of the season when he does come back. So not shocking. Again, you know, Teddy Bridgewater not really giving him many tight window shots, and Drew Lock, you know, struggling through progressions, et cetera, et cetera. But early on, it sounds like Jerry Jeudy is the guy. And, there was a tweet recently from, oh gosh, let me pull up my bookmarks here real quick. Easier on my phone than on the computer. Michael Florio.
I disagree with all of that.
You disagree with all of it?
People send me stuff to read like on my phone. I'm like, you want me to work on this? Then email it to me so I can use it on my computer.
Well, the bookmark on Twitter, just so I didn't lose the tweet, saying it's super early and maybe just missing stuff. But most of the wide receiver chatter coming out of Denver the first week of camp is all about Jerry Jeudy and nothing on Courtland Sutton. So Jeudy, the dude so far, and it does sound like, you know, he's had some negatives as well, you know, fumble, a couple of drop things here, but Judy's been making splash plays where it does seem like Sutton and Patrick specifically have been quiet, and even Sutton to the point of maybe being slightly disappointing. Now it's really, really early. It's not time to ring the alarm bells, but, you know, maybe time to just keep your eyes on it.
Who needs to love more?
Probably Jeudy.
Yep. Okay. So put on your skeptic filter with everything you hear and say, again, just like when you're watching practice, we need the offense to start clicking. We feel good about the defense. We're going to pull the offense, pull the defense back a little bit. Let's see. You know, so who needs the confidence booster a little more? It could all be true. Don't get me wrong. But, you know, just the flip side of that is we're not hearing much about Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton's a seasoned pro. I mean, he is a pro's pro. He doesn't need the love in the media maybe as much right now at talking up and the confidence boost the way Jerry Jeudy does. Now, Nick, you know, I'm having a kid who he actually turns 13 on Saturday.
Wow.
He could enter high school as 13 years old. So I'm real. They started school here in Georgia, believe it or not.
Yeah.
In some places. So, I'm I'm hyper aware of all the holdbacks and double holdbacks when our currency of value in athletics is academics is athletic scholarships right now, and you're competing against guys that are older. So Jerry Jeudy, here's a little factoid for you that kind of blows my mind still. Jerry Jeudy will finish this season younger than Calvin Ridley was his rookie season with the Falcons.
I mean,
he's going to finish.
Pretty good for a wide receiver.
He's going to finish. He's going to finish at 23 years old. Calvin Ridley turned 24 in December of his rookie year.
Yeah.
So he's young. He might, there might have been some talk about him being a little immature. Well, yeah, he's a kid.
Yeah, but just
I know. There's no excuses. He's a grown man. He's 23.
And then there's Patrick Surtain, who came in at 20.
There's still, what I just saying is there's still plenty of time for him. This is a big season for him. To write him off after his first 2 years as a 22-year-old kid would be silly, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess for me, the bigger story here isn't Jerry Jeudy emerging as this potential wide receiver one, although I am intrigued as heck to see his usage. Maybe this is more of a Doug Baldwin-esque role that obviously worked for Russell Wilson. But curious to see how it works. Good to see Jerry Jeudy. I mean, he should be entering his prime right now. Year 3 as a wide receiver, this should be the year where it's not, if it's not happening now to the extent of you wanting to see it, it's probably not going to happen to where we want him to get. He can still be a good player, but maybe a high end 2 rather than a wide receiver 1. But the one right now that it's concerning to me, and Gary coming in saying, don't write off Sutton. He is a gamer and balls out in the games. I guess don't write off Sutton. I guess I'm getting a little bit worried. Yeah, nobody's writing off Sutton. Mm-hmm. But I think I had hoped, Sutton with a quarterback coming in here a year removed from the ACL, maybe emerging as a potential top 10, top 15 wide receiver. And maybe I'm having to reevaluate, what he can be this year. Maybe he's closer to, a low end one in the top 30 to 20 range rather than, the push knocking on the door of the elites.
I just think with all the targets, it's going to be hard for anybody to put up numbers that would equate to a top 10, 15 type of receiver. That was what I'd have to look it up, but I feel like that's probably 13 or 1,400 yards plus to crack the top 10 in receiving. And, again, we talk about Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, Courtland Sutton, Okuebenam, Saubert is the name that's been going around. A 2-back set, throwing the ball to the backfield a lot. Mike Boone, Broncos country legend Mike Boone, out there is going to need some touches too. Dulcich, I just feel like it's going to be hard to come out here and that's what makes it tough for a fantasy owner. It makes it great if you're actually care about the Broncos, because you do have so many weapons. And if Sutton gets shut down by one guy, okay, we'll go to Patrick, we'll go to Jeudy, go to Okuebenam, or we'll just run it right up the gut on you. So there's so many different weapons out there that I do think it's going to be tough for anybody to put up the numbers that's going to equate to a top 10 or 15 receiver, but that doesn't mean they're not talented in that direction. I just, who would you, Drake London may have better numbers than the number 1 receiver with the Denver Broncos. Drake London wouldn't crack the top 3 of the Denver Broncos. It's just about opportunity.
Yeah, I agree with you to an extent. I got to say, though, for me personally, I am a big proponent against the volume stats. So I'm looking at the efficiency. And even if there isn't enough targets to go around, you should be able to see the efficiency-wise, air yards per target, touchdown, like the target-based ones, which are efficiency metrics, should be better. It's kind of like why tackles are not a great stat. You can be making all the tackles in the world, but if you're making it, 3 yards past of where another guy would.
Plays?
Yes.
You're making tackles, but are you making plays? And welcome in, Ethan. I was a little worried. It's like, wait a minute. Ethan's not here. We have to cancel the show.
Where are you, Ethan? Yeah, SOS. How you doing? And we had a question here. I wanted to say hello to Peter because he had a few chats coming, and also hello to Tim Frisbee. Good to see you, Tim. But Peter coming in over on Facebook. If you guys are over on Facebook like Peter, make sure you click the thumbs up or whatever react here. We got a laugh react coming in from Chris Salazar. Good to see you, Chris. Saying, are we expecting the Broncos to be just as good as last year's defense or better? It seems better. Top 3. I think on the whole, it would probably be safer. God, is it really lame to say hold serve just to be about the same? Because I think you might lose a little bit as far as the Vic Fangio scheme stuff. I mean, historically, how many great, young defensive coordinators have there been in the last few seasons that have just like rocketed to superstardom? The only one I can think of is Brandon Staley. Most of the good defensive coordinators have had their hat in the ring for a bit because they've seen a few things, different ways to attack different types of players, coverages, et cetera, et cetera. So top three, I'm not expecting that. The big thing, though, is that Broncos pass rush, it kind of like the Falcons, it would be hard for them to be worse than they were last year. So that should help them a bit. But I think right now my expectation is for them to hold serve. And my biggest concern is the depth on the defensive line. Defensive line, even the best in the world, only play like 60% of the snaps. And right now, after the Joneses, I don't know. So I'm pretty concerned about the defensive line up front.
Well, and you mentioned just now, I feel the same way about the defense as you just mentioned about Courtland Sutton and the wide receivers. What I'm looking at the efficiency metrics. Now,
Yep.
the Broncos finished as the third stingiest defense in the NFL as far as points given up.
Yep.
Did they feel like the third best defense in the NFL to you?
Nope.
Could they get the team off the field when they needed to? Could they force turnovers when they needed to? Could they do all of those things that you think of when you're talking about a defense that helps you win games? Or did they slow the game down enough that the points were at a premium on both sides of the ball? So, they were 23rd in points and third in points allowed. Well, those kind of went hand in hand because they slowed the game down so much that the amount of possessions were limited. But I never felt like this team could get a stop if it needed it.
Yep.
I remember it doing it one time against the Commanders when they tried to give that game away towards the end. And it may have just been Washington football team at the time. I've already lost track. But the Washington, they hand the ball off to Javonte Williams and he fumbles, but it was called back for like a procedure penalty or something. Then they give it to Melvin Gordon and he just hands it right back to him. I'm like, good Lord, they're trying to give this game away. The defense stepped up and made a play. But I saw a lot of 3rd and 2s and long, torturous drives. This did not feel like a top 3. It didn't even feel like a top 10 defense to me. So will points against go up? Yes, I believe they will. Will turnovers and sacks go up? Yes, I believe they will. Can this defense help you win more games? Yes, I think they can.
Yep. Hopefully. God, so much of it relies obviously health. But you need somebody on the defensive line to step up. Had been hoping to Wuzurike, that's unfair to him being, a day 3 pick, but had hoped Wuzurike would be like, oh my gosh, this guy's popping. Definitely a day 1 starter. Doesn't seem like that's happening. Again, that is really unfair expectations or hopes. That was more hopes than expectations, I'll say. Deshaun Williams out there, that's fine. But again, you're going to need depth and rotation on the defensive line up front. Even guys like, Chris Jones, who's considered one of the top 3 defensive linemen in football, only plays about 60% of the snaps. And that's one of your starters. So after the Jones, it gets scary up front. And I'm just worried about the Broncos being a team that other teams are able to punch them in the mouth up front, kind of like what we saw last year against the Ravens, against the Eagles. DJ Jones should help that a bit. But does DJ Jones offer that much as far as Shelby Harris and more? You need bodies. And I just don't know if you have the bodies right now. And we should start to get an idea with padded practice coming up here. But Colby C. Collier coming in here over on Facebook with the support. Thank you so much, CCC. We appreciate you. Hope you're doing well.
Yep. Thank you so much. And he with a comment, he comes in, football team is a better name. As a soccer guy, I kind of agree. All the mascots and stuff, after you watch like 200 teams across the country and their clubs, actual individual clubs, the mascots sound kind of weird. But that's just, again, I liked Washington football team better than Commanders. They could have done better than Commanders.
Yep. Yeah, they could have. And apparently the Broncos just got a new person to the ownership group. Broncos releasing a statement from Rob Walton saying, we're delighted to welcome 7-time Formula One world champion Sir Lewis Hamilton to our ownership group. He's a champion competitor who knows what it takes to lead a team and a fierce advocate for global equality, including in his own sport. With over 100 race wins, Lewis is considered the most successful F1 driver of all time. His resilient spirit and standard of excellence will be an asset to our ownership group and the Broncos organization. So there you go. There you have it, guys. Heard it here first.
And
I don't
again,
really
it
have much
comes
of
back to what we were talking about, Nick, as far as, being an owner and being part of the owner's group are 2 different things.
Yep.
So you're not going to, a 1% stake in a team, and this team is worth $45 million. So they're not just handing that stuff out. They're saying, the ownership group is saying, I'm an owner. I need some help. I want you to be part of my board of advisors, board of directors type of people. Come in and work, and we'll pay you X amount. So again, being part of the owners group does not mean you are part owner.
Yeah.
And I'm more convinced of that than ever.
Yep. Do you watch F1 racing, Formula 1?
I don't. I know, what I do remember thinking was, we talk about, we're so laser focused in the US because this country is so big. I kind of get a laugh at, the world's most watched event, the Super Bowl. Actually, that's about half of what the average Formula One race gets in total viewership. So I know how huge it is, but I'm not into auto racing at all.
Yeah, it doesn't really do it for me. But
I told you that story in the first house I had. The grass goes dormant here in the South. You get Bermuda grass and it turns brown. I bought my first house in April, starting to warm up, and I go outside, new homeowner, flip on the sprinklers, sun's out, it's warming up. And I'm like, I really would rather watch grass grow than NASCAR racing. So it hit me. I was 27 years old. I would rather watch grass grow. I proved it to myself.
Well, hopefully we didn't alienate anyone in here, but yeah, it's not for me.
Honestly, it's just not my thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, God, ever since starting here at Mile High Huddle, even I grew up. I mean, you can see I have many baseball hats behind me. I don't even have too much time for the baseball these days. I like going to a Mariners game out here because the views are beautiful. I'm outside on the beer patio. But other than that, let's say hello to some more people come in here. Sowell, come in. Good morning, Scott and Nick. We will know the number one receiver when the offensive line collapses in pressure and gets in Russ's face. Well, there's a lot to unpackage in this very short comment. So offensive line, no hope here. Russell Wilson having to escape, and then his, I guess this is an inherent bias or kind of the under the surface here. Okay, I'm not thinking anymore. Where do I go? Number one receiver. So maybe he has different guys for different situations, but we'll see.
I said that's where I think Jerry Jeudy should shine is on scramble plays when those break down, because he should be in the slot towards the middle of the field. Where the other guys could be deeper or farther out on the hashes. But my number one receiver it's 3rd and 8. Who's my first thought? Where's my first option? That's my number one guy. You're my number one guy. So that's how I picture number one receiver is, hey, I need a first down. Who's number one in my mind at that point?
Yeah. Absolutely. Crimson Wolf coming in saying, morning Broncos country. So stoked for football to start. Counting it out of the days until the first preseason game. Well, I think we don't have very long to wait here. So excited for that, and really excited to see the Broncos in there. How many series do we get from the starters, Scott?
In pads?
Like in preseason.
The first preseason game? I don't think you'll go the whole preseason game without seeing any of them. Okay. I think with a new coach and a new quarterback, they'll be itching to get at least a series in that, who knows? Because this team has visions of competing for, a championship. Yeah. It's not like, okay, let's just see if we can survive the year and not get anybody hurt, and we'll work on a draft pick next year. So I wouldn't be surprised if we got a first quarter out of them, out of some guys, at least on offense, but we'll see. We'll see. I also wouldn't be completely surprised if they didn't play at all.
Yeah. I mean, did Matt Stafford play a single snap in preseason last year?
Probably not. That's kind of what they do. We don't know what Nathaniel Hackett's mindset is. I think he's such a giddy kid out there. He wants to play with his new toys.
Yeah.
Is he going to be able to wait till Christmas Day to unwrap all of them? I don't know. And, and we know what kind of competitor Russell Wilson is, and he's been through the ringer. He knows how to protect himself a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see. But I would bet now they at least get a quarter.
Yep. Hope so. Andy coming in here saying, I wouldn't be surprised if Jeudy makes a push to the second spot and Tim is pushed to that more safety net position. And Scott, you kind of have me thinking now, maybe this is, trust no one situation. But Jerry Jeudy, I'm sure he is doing well in practice. But if there is anybody on this team, especially after, struggling the first 2 years, the Alabama pressure, is he a bust? The trade talk in the offseason. If there's any one of these Broncos, and also not coming off a big contract signing, if there's any of these players that need to be feeling value right now, it's probably Jerry Jeudy. So I'm curious to see what it works like. Also, if this offense is going to be great, you probably need Jeudy to emerge and feel confident in that. So maybe there is something to that, especially when, stuff you're hearing from is the calls coming from inside the house, kind of situation.
Yeah, it is. That's why it's kind of nice having, we call it, third party validation, which is kind of what I do here, is take a look from the outside and talk about what I see. I saw it with Josie Jewell last year. I'm like, I think you guys are underselling this guy a little bit. The quarterback situation, someone coming in with a fresh pair of eyes. When the national media guys start making the rounds, they'll start putting out notes like, oh, it was a Broncos practice today. Oh my God, Jerry Jeudy's in for a breakout season. That feels pretty good. They're talking highly about him here. Maybe not so much. What do you see? I want to know what you see, not what you hear. They hear what they tell you what they want you to tell, what you want you to say. So again, it doesn't mean it's not happening. It's just, of all the receivers out there, who needs the biggest push that you can depend on as far as availability? Hamler would be in that group too, but are we counting on Hamler the way we're counting on Jerry Jeudy this season? Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. Speaking of Hamler, though, Hamler had a press conference yesterday, and sounds like, obviously he dealt with these pretty catastrophic knee injury last year, just came off of PUP here in the last 36, 48 hours, and should be good to go. Obviously going to work back slowly, has had injuries, dating back to his redshirt sophomore year at Penn State before coming out. Didn't run the 40 because of that. Injured his rookie season and injured last season. I think his rookie season dealing with that hamstring still. Last year, the knee injury, but he's back now. It also sounds like he was in a pretty dark place there for a little bit. Obviously, he lost his grandmother, who he has said is he's called her, quote, the love of my life in his grandma, which, devastating to him. And he was in a pretty dark place there for a bit. And I think Scott has a video clip of KJ Hamler's interview here. So let's take a look.
A heartfelt admission from KJ Hamler. Yeah. Let's listen up real quick. It goes about a minute.
It was just so much stuff I was dealing with, being piled up, on top of each other. At one point, just dealing with the ACL, and a little bit of more things, family situations. My love of my life passed, my grandmother. So that was the toughest thing. And, the devil was on my back for a while. And, I wish I would have never did it by myself. I wish I would have asked for help because, at some point, it was at one point in my life, and I'm just be honest with y'all because I'm more vulnerable and, more confident in myself about saying it. But at one point, I didn't want to be here. Like, I didn't want to be in this world. It was one point I just didn't want to be on earth no more, because I lost my granny, and that really hurt me. So just God gave me the strength just to get out that hole, and, he knew I was strong enough to get through. I didn't feel like I was at the time, and, just getting out that hole was very hard and very tough. You know what I'm saying? Just having all these things going on and, piling on top of each other, it was a hard process. But, just to see where I'm at from where I started and where I'm at now, a big change. And I'm proud of myself, and I know my grandmother proud.
Powerful. When he's talking about didn't want to be in this world anymore, you hear his voice crack. We take hold on, I'm going to take care of someone coming in here from the Raiders that it's not the time to talk trash, dude. Not that it ever is, but we take athletes for granted. To a certain extent, they get the star athletes and all the way through middle school on up. They're treated differently. There's a lot of envy that goes around. I saw as much envy from the national media as I've ever seen during the pandemic. It's like, do you guys even like the athletes you cover at all?
No.
And you forget that it doesn't matter how much money you've made or are making or the lifestyle you have. If what you feel defines you as the person you are is taken away, it's hurtful. Who am I now? What am I even doing here? And then to lose somebody that is your support system, to have all that happen all at one time. If there's one thing that he said in there that everybody should listen to and take away from is like, I wish I hadn't tried to do it by myself. I wish I hadn't tried to do it by myself. Reach out, ask for help. It's okay.
Yep. 100%. And really big reach out there. I also saw that KJ Hamler and Sierra have kind of formed somewhat of a relationship, and they've been talking a lot, and she's been there for him, recently, and they've kind of created a pretty strong bond here, friendship, obviously, but one of those going on, and they talk a good bit, and that's good to see as well. I mean, the Russell Wilson impact going beyond just Russell Wilson. It's a power couple for a reason, and they're definitely getting their roots established in Denver beyond just the city itself in the locker room. It's hopefully a more family atmosphere here going forward. So awesome to see. Andrew Lampy coming in saying morning men.
Good
But
morning,
yeah,
Andrew. Welcome. Glad you could make it in. Sorry, we were a little somber. No, but that was, as Jeremy says, it's a message that it can't be said enough. And as KJ he says, I guarantee KJ Hamler helped others yesterday, without a doubt. Without a doubt, he helped others for sure. So thank you, KJ Hamler. And as Zach said, I think it was yesterday on the show, is there a human being on earth that you want to root for more than KJ Hamler after yesterday? Probably not.
Not many.
Probably not.
Not many. And just talking about being more comfortable to be vulnerable. You're not alone. So as Scott and I always say, reach out. Say, hey, kind of down right now. I can do my best to distract you if you just want to talk. That's that's fine. Always here. So we appreciate KJ Hamler saying that, and really pulling for him this year. It's going to be a big year for him. We need to start wrapping up. Got a message from the boss man, be pushing in for 45 minutes more. But KJ Hamler, been injured so far this season, but coming off the PUP list now, should be back in practice. Any expectations this early on, or is it more, just getting his feet under him, going through the drills, and just continuing to stay healthy?
Well, from all the reports so far, it's that he's ahead of schedule. That he's looked great, and to take him off the PUP list, and now as soon as he's cleared for full contact, he'll probably be out there in a quarterback's jersey, in a red no contact jersey when he goes out there. And speaking of red, Ethan comes in here with the symbolic red super chat with all ones for KJ. Says, KJ, support to you, brother. Good message. Never do it alone. And that's hard. I mean, that can't be said enough from people who are someone that we might look up to. He's 20 something years younger than me, and I still look up to him for what he's able to do. And to hear him say that, it touches me. Don't do it alone. We're old, stubborn, and try and do some of these things on our own. Reach out to somebody. So thank you, Ethan, and again, thank you, KJ Hamler.
Yep, appreciate you, Ethan. We appreciate you, KJ, for doing that, and appreciate everyone joining us today. It's Tuesday, back on the grind here. We'll be back again tomorrow morning for Scott's on Forging the Falcons, and I'll be back tonight with Carl on Building the Broncos. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, seeing a lot of Scott and I. So hanging out here, having fun. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I am at Nick Kendell MHH. Also make sure you're following us at Huddle Up Pod and at BFB_pods. That way, if you miss the show at all, early, whatever, you have something going on, an appointment, got to get a kids to a practice or something, you can find us after the fact as well. Obviously, it's more fun if you join us for the live stream and interact with us in the chat. But as, oh gosh, who was it earlier? Was it Jay Roper saying that he hadn't been able to catch us live for a bit, had been listening after the fact? Multiple ways to hang out with us, so that's still great. Also, make sure you're following us at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you're joining our Facebook communities, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And of course, as always, please subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube if you haven't done so yet. Like, heart, react, laugh, react, whatever, before you get out here on Facebook. And click the bell notification on YouTube so that way you know when we go live. Scott, what's the rest of your day looking like?
Got to get some work done. And again, just before we get out of here, support the people who help support the show. You as always. Yeah. But this episode in particular was supported by Pristine Auction. Get $10 off your first item. Use code HUDDLE when you sign up at pristineauction.com/register. Plus, be entered to win a signed Javonte Williams full-size helmet. You don't even have to buy anything. You just have to register. So I don't think we even said that part. You don't have to bid on an auction. You don't have to do any of that thing. Just register, join their mailing list. So, and you're entered in to win the helmet. I'm going to drop the link into the chat again, and it's also part of the description on YouTube. So, it's a new sponsor. Let's show them what we can do, Bronco Country.
That's right. Let's ride, right? Now, so thank you guys so much. You have a great rest of your Tuesday. We're here for you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Make sure you're choosing kindness and choosing compassion. Go Broncos.